I think the Sonic movie may have had a negative effect on how we engage with movies because, while obviously Ugly Sonic is thousands of leagues inferior to the Sonic we eventually got, it set a bit of an ugly precedent. Increasingly, people call for a Sonic movie style remodeling a little too readily these days, for things as simple as the animatronics in Five Nights at Freddy's having red eyes. The latest example of the internet playing the ugly Sonic card is Shrek's redesign for Shrek 5. Now, yes, it's completely uncanny. This looks incredibly wrong. That being said, I'm struggling like nothing else to put my finger on what exactly is different. It's clearly a different model made from scratch, and the art style is clearly a little more cartoony, but even I must admit I had a visceral reaction to this redesign. But is this design truly bad enough to call for massive delays to redesign the character from the ground up? Why exactly does this seemingly innocuous redesign cause so much psychic damage? Finally, is Shrek changing? And if Shrek is changing, is that a bad thing? Obviously, there's over a decade of technological difference to consider, as well as a significant difference of in-universe age. The wrinkles, pores, and updated lighting really paint the character in a new light, but it definitely goes deeper than that. These are probably the first new models for these characters ever. After a 15-year gap, there's probably new teams in charge of this movie, new art direction, new art style, and a need for brand new models and rigs. The original 4 Shrek movies came out over the course of nearly a decade, and while there were some improvements to lighting, textures, and other effects, the models remained the same. The art style, the proportions, every detail of Shrek's face became seared into our minds as unchangeable. Something kinda similar happened with Donkey Kong, who used the same model for a long time until Donkey Kong Bonanza, when, for the first time in many people's memory, a new design was implemented. This new Donkey Kong design is, in many ways, better, similar in appearance to the original Donkey Kong's key art, and with proportions and rigging better suited to being cartoonishly expressive. Just like with Shrek, though to a much lesser degree, this new design was a little divisive, and just like with Shrek, Donkey Kong had been unchanging for a long time. Maybe this new design that has already grown on most could become universally loved after a few Super Smash Bros. Appearances. Donkey Kong, I mean, not Shrek. Speaking of Donkey Kong, his more successful twin brother Mario also underwent a massive design change in Super Mario Wonder. Just like Donkey Kong, this new design changes the proportions and rigging a lot from the old New Super Mario Bros. Series in order to capture what's great about the old 2D artwork. However, unlike Donkey Kong, these changes were praised and even retroactively soured people's opinion on the character models from the new series. I think, to an extent, this is just a matter of consistency being broken. Shrek and his friends not only had the same models and art styles across all movies, but also in every special and every video game. Similarly, Donkey Kong had looked almost identical across all video games since his first 3D appearance, whether it be his standalone games Mario Party or Smash. Mario, on the other hand, has had a wide variety of looks across his games, appearing with different proportions and slight stylistic changes very often. Because Mario changed a lot through his career, the hat, the mustache, the overalls, the red and blue, these are the things that make him recognizable. For Shrek and Donkey Kong, their static character designs didn't make their characteristics recognizable, but their very shape, every contour of their bodies set in stone. Another interesting example of this is the Addams Family as compared to the Munsters. The Munsters has one set of actors and portrayals so brutally iconic that it's impossible to portray them any other way without being icky, while the Addams Family has had so many actors and portrayals that it's not the end of the world when, there's new actors who look different in a lot of ways. So, is that it? Is it just that Shrek is just too iconic to change? Well, that's certainly part of it. There's tons of benefits to his redesign. The eyes being closer together, his face taking up more of his head, his proportions being slightly skewed to exaggeration. He's much more cartoon-like, which is what 3D animated movies today are wont to do, but his original look, while almost identical in every way besides these, is just too damn recognizable. But there's something else that causes the new Shrek design to be uncanny, and that's the fact that it's far too normal looking. Let's take a moment to remember 2001. Disney held the world of animation with an iron grip. If a competitor stepped forward to oppose them, Disney would simply smother them with a re-release. DreamWorks was shaping up to be a bit of a competitor, but their work was still clearly a desperate attempt at being Disney. Then Shrek came along. They saw Disney's family-friendly and whimsical musicals and met them with cynicism and parody. The fairy tale creatures are given characteristics of gritty city livers. The princess isn't a helpless damsel in distress. The monsters turn out to not be monsters at all. Disney's original music is subversively replaced by pop music. And as the cherry on top, Fiona remains unchanged, remaining an ogre despite finding true love, in a scene that perfectly mirrors Disney's Beauty and the Beast. Shrek was a rebel. Everything from the story, the performances, the pop culture references, they were all part of Shrek's rebellious vibes, all down to the art style. The uncanny 3D animation, which, while expressive, is differently expressive from a cartoon, and the uncanny attempt at realism gives it an odd vibe. Shrek was inherently anti-Disney, anti-establishment, right down to the grime of the art style itself. Shrek 2 further explored these ideas. The Kingdom of Far, Far Away, being a stand-in for Hollywood, allowed the film to tackle Hollywood beauty standards. Fairy tale icons like Prince Charming and Fairy Godmother are turned into villains who uphold the status quo. If Shrek was a rebellion against the establishment, Shrek 2 was about Shrek going into the heart of the establishment and tearing it apart from the inside. Now, something funny happened at around this time. Shrek was very popular. DreamWorks started trying to make more of these subversive, uncanny-looking 3D animated films, with Shark Tale coming out shortly after Shrek 2. Disney tried to be more Shrek-like with movies like Chicken Little. A Shrek ride opened at Universal Studios between Shrek 1 and 2. They had action figures, dolls, costumes, Burger King meals. Shrek the Third would eventually come out, and you don't need me to tell you that it wasn't very impressive. There's a lot of reasons for this, but I believe a key reason may have been that Shrek, both in the real world and in the narrative of the movie, wasn't the rebel anymore. By now, Shrek had become the establishment. Subversions weren't so subversive, and being 3 movies in, Shrek's style and humor felt a little bit more like business as usual. Shrek Forever After is basically a meta-commentary on this very thing. Shrek is no longer a hated minority trying to change the system, but is a beloved celebrity. He's settled down with a family. He's got no one left trying to change him. Shrek is finally accepted, more than accepted. Shrek is the status quo now. He is the establishment. Shrek makes a wish to relive his glorious days as a rebel without a cause, but in doing so, he loses everything he's won over his various battles. His family, the positive change he's brought in his community, are all gone. And at the end of the movie, when he beats the bad guy and sets reality back to how it was, he accepts that this is his life. Shrek, both the character and the franchise, express a pining for the good old days when they were seen as this subversive young punk, but ultimately they accept that things change and that their success would inevitably lead to this. A year later, Puss in Boots came out, and it was Diet Dr. Shrek. It fell flat on its face and was received as a poor imitation of the main movies. But 11 years later, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish came out, and, well, holy shit, it was good. It was one of the most praised animated movies of its time, and it's heralded as an excellent work of art. Something I don't think a lot of people noticed, however, is how un-Shrek it is. They still subvert fairy tales in their own way, with Goldilocks and the Three Bears being a crime family, and Jack Horner reimagined as the President of the United States. But plot-wise, there's nothing too subversive here. The dashing hero goes on a journey of self-reflection, confronts his fear of death, and gets his groove back, played entirely straight and without riffing on any other movie in particular. The art style is very different from any other Shrek product, and Puss in Boots himself has undergone a huge design overhaul. It may not seem like much, but giving Puss a neck and making his hat twice as big drastically improves his character design. But more than character design, pretty much all of Shrek's grunginess is missing. It's a gorgeous movie to look at, and it's, overall, lacking a lot of the edginess baked into the Shrek franchise before it. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish doesn't try to subvert status quos or rebel against the norm. It just sets out to tell a good story and pulls it off impeccably. When it was announced shortly after The Last Wish got its welcome reception that DreamWorks was going to do Shrek 5, I immediately knew that heavy changes were coming. Puss in Boots revived interest in the Shrek franchise partially by ditching the art style and by being a more straightforward story, so I guessed right away that Shrek, at the very least, would be getting a visual update. These days, 3D animated films strive to capture the desirable qualities of 2D animation, strive for expressiveness, cartooniness, Loch Ness. This is just what modern 3D animated films look like now, and that's exactly why Shrek looks so weird in these teasers. Because he looks normal for the first time. He looks standard. He looks like if Pixar or Illumination made Shrek. The reason this version of Shrek looks so uncanny is because he doesn't. I had assumed that Shrek 5 would take a page out of Puss in Boots' book and move away from the satirical humor and parody and go for a more straightforward storytelling experience, but with these teasers it's starting to seem like that's not the case, but I'm not sure how I feel about that. Shrek is going to tackle modern pop culture, just like he always has, but today the word modern means 2020s, not 2000s, and maybe this is just me being a doomer, but I feel like pop culture largely just sucks now. I don't know if I want to see Shrek use TikTok filters or reference some Disney Plus Marvel show that I haven't watched, and part of me wonders if the old Shrek formula wouldn't work today and should just be abandoned. On the other hand, I'm not sure I do want them to abandon the Shrek formula. As much as it worked for Puss in Boots to try a new style, part of why it worked was that it helped differentiate it from the main series Shrek, and I'm not certain I want that for the main series, for it to change after all this time. For me, Shrek's new design makes me uncomfortable, not because it's bad, but because it makes me question which direction the series will take, and which direction I would even prefer. It's still the same ugly ogre, but polished to a sheen in a modern, standardized art style. It's uncanny because it's both recognizably Shrek in shape, but so not Shrek in its philosophy. They could dust off the old recipe and resurrect the Shrek style of humor, showing that it can be done in the modern day just as good, or they can fuck it up. They could let the old recipe collect dust on a shelf and try their own thing, catching us all off guard by telling a solid, dramatic story, but again, they could fuck it up. I think, on some level, part of why Shrek's new design is so uncomfortable is because it calls into question the franchise's shaky identity with itself. It is a perfect visual symbol for our uncertainty of where this is going to go. This isn't an issue that can be resolved by changing how Shrek looks, and I think it would be a waste of time to try and change it at this point, because even if they use the exact same character model as the past, it would only look like Shrek. This new design isn't an insurmountable obstacle standing between you and enjoying this movie. It's just a different art style, and we just have to get used to it. The real problem Shrek 5 is facing is this. Attempting to resurrect the old Shrek style is just as dangerous as trying to make a new one, and if they aren't careful, either choice can lead to disaster. Everything is riding on execution.